welcome to the Explainer. Look, if you're a medical student, I already know one of your absolute biggest struggles, keeping glycogen storage diseases straight in your head. It's a notoriously brutal topic, right? You stare at the textbook, you try to memorize which enzyme goes with which Roman numeral, and by the next morning, it's just completely vanished from your brain. But today, we're going to fix that permanently. I promise you, by the end of this Explainer, you are going to master this topic, and you won't be relying on blind guessing ever again. Okay, let's dive into this. Here's our agenda. 1. The 6 essential GSDs. 2. Vice President types II. 3. Cuts and adds types 3-4. 4. Maharashtra types 5-6. 5. The master synthesis. And 6. MCQ practice and answer. Section 1. The 6 essential GSDs. So, to make these dense diseases digestible, we're not just going to look at them as a random list. We are going to group them into 3 super logical, easy-to-remember pairs. Here is your overarching master mnemonic. To remember the exact order of GSDs, types I through V, you just need to remember this sequence. Vice President cuts and adds Maharashtra. Look at how perfectly this orders them. Vice is von Gers's for type I. President is Pomps for type 2. Cuts is Corey's for type 3. Adds is Anderson's for type 4. And for types 5 and 6, we use the Indian state Maharashtra. Maha for McCarl's and Rashtra for hers. It seamlessly groups these clinical themes together. Section 2. Vice President types I and II. All right, let's break down the dense biochemistry of our first pair into simple cause and effect. What's really interesting here is the exact hub of the problem in type I, von Gierke's disease, the V in Vice. The deficient enzyme here is glucose 6-phosphatase. Because this specific enzyme is missing, glucose 6-phosphate, or G6P, literally cannot be converted into free glucose. So what happens? Well, it dramatically accumulates right there in the center of the cell. And that massive traffic jam sets off a huge chain reaction. Let's unpack the cascading effects of that G6P accumulation, because honestly, understanding why the symptoms happen is so much better than just memorizing a list. First up, since it can't convert to free glucose, the clinical hallmark is severe fasting hypoglycemia. The body just completely fails to release free glucose into the blood. Second, all that excess G6P gets converted into liver glycogen, causing hepatomegaly or a dangerously enlarged liver. But the G6P has to go somewhere else too. More G6P enters the HMP pathway, creating more ribose 5-phosphate, more purine synthesis, and ultimately high uric acid, known as hyperuricemia. The G6P also gets shoved down the glycolysis pathway, turning into pyruvate and then lactate, causing lactic acidosis. And finally, that pyruvate also converts to acetyl-CoA, turning into fatty acids and triglycerides, leading to hyperlipidemia and even ketoacidosis from increased fat breakdown. It all stems from that one single bottleneck. Now let's shift gears to type 2 Pompe's disease, which is the P in our president. The deficient enzyme here is acid maltase. Now, Pompe's is incredibly special because it holds a very unique status. It's the only glycogen storage disease that is also a lysosomal storage disease, or LSD. And because of this, it has a really grim prognosis. Death usually occurs within the first 2 years of life due to severe cardiac failure. And here is the absolute most vital memory hook for your exams. Pompe equals pump equals heart. Literally, just say that out loud. Pompe, pump, heart. It is the only GSD associated with fatal hypertrophic cardiomyopathy. When you see a heart issue in a glycogen storage disease question, your brain should immediately go to the pump, Pompe, and acid maltase deficiency. Section 3, Cuts and Adds, types 3 and 4. Let's see how this builds as we transition to our second pair, which is all about the structural branching of glycogen. We're contrasting Corey's and Anderson's diseases side by side here. On one side, we have the scissors for Corey's, which perfectly represents cutting branches. On the other side, we have the building blocks for Anderson's, representing adding branches. This imagery is absolutely going to save you on test day. Let's summarize the core differences clearly. Corey's type 3 is a breakdown failure. Corey cuts branches. The debranching enzyme is deficient, meaning alpha-1 6 bonds that are normally cut during glycogen breakdown simply cannot be removed. Because breakdown is incomplete, a residual structure rich in these branches accumulates. This is called limit dextrin, which is exactly why Corey's is also known as limit dextrinosis. On the flip side, Anderson's type 4 is a synthesis failure. Anderson adds branches. The branching enzyme is deficient, so those alpha-1 6 bonds can't be created during synthesis. Normal glycogen can't be formed, and instead an abnormal starch-like structure called amylopectin accumulates, making Anderson's known as amylopectinosis. Corey cuts, Anderson adds. Section 4. Maharashtra, types V and V. All right, on to our final pair in the mnemonic, Maharashtra. I promise you, these are the most straightforward of the bunch because they relate directly to specific organs. The letters literally give away the affected tissue. The M in Maharashtra is for myocardial, and M equals muscle. The H in Rashtra is for hers, and H equals hepatic or liver. It's really that simple. Here's your punchy breakdown of the exam buzzwords. McArdle's disease, type V, involves a muscle phosphorylase deficiency. Glycogen cannot be broken down in the skeletal muscle, so what happens? Well, the classic clinical signs are exercise intolerance and frequent muscle cramps. Meanwhile, Hers disease, type 6, is a hepatic phosphorylase deficiency. Liver glycogen breakdown is impaired. It's kind of similar to type 1, von Gierke's, but it's much milder and localized purely to that hepatic deficiency. Section 5, the master synthesis. Okay, we've covered all 6. Now let's bring it all together for the grand finale, tying these diseases into one ultimate study tool, your master synthesis. Notice how our mnemonic hook perfectly aligns with the deficient enzymes and key exam features we just learned across the rows. I through V. Vice President Cutts adds Maha, Rashtra. Von Gierke, Pompey, Corey, Anderson, Acardal, hers. You can trace the enzyme logic straight across. Glucose 6-phosphatase causes the severe hypoglycemia and lactic acidosis. Acid maltase is the pump and heart failure. Debranching enzyme leaves limit dextrin. Branching enzyme leaves amylopectin. Muscle phosphorylase causes cramps, and hepatic phosphorylase hits the liver. It's an airtight system for your memory.
Section 6, MCQ Practice and Answer.
Okay, I want to challenge you right now. Let's put your new knowledge to the test immediately with an active recall exercise based on a real clinical vignette. Read this carefully with me. A 4-month-old infant is brought to the pediatric clinic with failure to thrive and severe hypotonia. An echocardiogram reveals massive hypertrophic cardiomyopathy. Which of the following enzymes is most likely deficient in this patient? Is it A, glucose 6-phosphatase, B, debranching enzyme, C, acid maltase, or D, muscle phosphorylase? I'll give you a second, lock in your guess. And the answer is C, acid maltase. Fantastic job if you nailed that. So the crucial point here is exactly what we covered. Hypertrophic cardiomyopathy in an infant is the absolute classic hallmark of Pompe's disease, type 2. Our mnemonic recall was Pompe equals pump equals heart, linking directly to the acid maltase enzyme. And look at how easily we can roll out the others using our system. A is von Gierke, which presents with severe fasting hypoglycemia, not isolated fatal cardiomyopathy. B is Corey, which presents with limit dextrin and milder hypoglycemia. And D is McArdle, which presents in young adults with exercise-induced muscle cramps, definitely not infants with heart failure. Concept mastered. Honestly, you should be incredibly proud of yourself. You just took a notoriously difficult, totally confusing topic and completely neutralized it by leveraging structured metabolic pathways instead of relying on blind guessing. You're now ready to tackle any glycogen storage disease question that comes your way.